Call the meeting to order. Committee of Adjustments meeting, March 11th, 2025. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. Recordings will be made available on the town's YouTube channel. I would ask all those in attendance to please put their phones on mute or vibrate. And I would also ask our committee if they have any declarations of pecuniary interest to please report them at that time. This time I'll introduce the folks that are here today. I will start with our senior planner, Maria Casarossi, our engineering coordinator, Josh Booth, planning technician, Mackenzie Baird, and manager of development services, Fred Nada. And I will introduce our committee, starting to my far left, our committee member, Les Goldhawk. Beside him, Deputy Mayor Nettie McEwen. To my right, committee member Jennifer Turk. And beside her, Councillor Mike Vasey. And I am Bruce Moulton, and I'm the chair of the committee. Great. So we'll adopt our minutes. At this time, I have a motion by Nettie McEwen and seconded by Mike Vasey that the minutes from the regular Committee of Adjustments meeting held February 11th, 2025 be approved as presented. All those in favor? Carried. All right, we'll move to our first minor variance application A-0325. Take notice that an application has been made by Robinson Design and Drafting on behalf of Arlene Howard and Brian Blaze. With respect to the property known as Plan 14, Lot 6, W Part Lot 7, Town of Plympton-Wyoming, 3086 Lakeview Avenue. The subject property is zoned Environmental Protection Lakeshore, L. The following variants from zoning bylaw 97 of 2003 have been requested for a proposed garage. Number one, a variance of approximately 0.3 meters, 0.98 feet to permit the accessory building to be approximately 4.3 meters, 14.11 feet in height, notwithstanding the required maximum height of 4 meters, 13.12 feet as per section 30.5 subsection G. Number two, a variance of approximately 14.2 square meters, 152.85 square feet to permit the accessory building to be approximately 44.2 square meters, 475.77 square feet, notwithstanding the required maximum gross floor area of 30 square meters, 322.92 square feet as per section 30.5 subsection H. And number three, a variance of approximately 7.62 square meters, 82.02 square feet to permit the dwelling to have a gross floor area of 118.62 meters, 1,276.82 square feet, notwithstanding the maximum gross floor area of 111 square meters, 1,194.79 square feet as per section 30.4 subsection H, and table B to accommodate the enclosing of the existing front porch deck, which will cause the front porch deck to become a home addition as per section 30.4 subsection K. At this time, I will ask our planner to give us a rundown and a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the application has been reviewed to determine alignment with good planning principles with the zoning, the official plan, and it has been found that the three minor variances do in fact align and comply with the official plans for the county, the municipality, and the intent of the zoning bylaw, and they meet the 4 tests for a minor variance. So it is planning staff's recommendation that the application be approved. The application has been circulated for comment to a number of agencies per the requirements of the Planning Act, and any conditions that were required by Town Public Works and County Building Services, Enbridge, and the Conservation Authority have all been included as part of the conditions under the recommendations.
Okay. Anything to add, Arlene or Brian or whomever you have representing you over there?
Christine Robinson.
Christine.
Yeah. I don't think we have anything to add, just if anybody has any questions.
We'll go through that for sure. Mackenzie, do we have any correspondence with this application?
For your chair, I can confirm we received no correspondence related to the application.
Okay, thank you. I will refer to our committee. I'll start with my far left. Les, any questions?
No, I didn't have any questions in regards to this. You know, it relates to the other dwellings and garages on the street.
Deputy Mayor McEwen.
Yeah, I do have a couple questions. The proposed garage, it's going to be in the 4 feet of a corner is going to be in the stable slope allowance?
The garage is within the erosion allowance, but are you referring to the distance from the setback from the road?
No, I'm referring to the stable slope allowance. It's going to be about 4 feet into it, is it? That's the way I see it.
So the Conservation Authority did not have any concerns in terms of the location of the garage, that it was outside of area of greatest risk.
I can understand why. Like they've got all these rules and regulations and they don't say anything about it. I thought the last one they did that stable slope allowance. Anyway. And it's far enough away from the front lot line.
Yes, it is the reduced front yard setback in table B.
Because it's in shoreline area.
Yes, and then it's the required distance or within the required distance from the building as well.
That's all for now.
Jennifer?
I had the same concerns as Nettie, because the St. Clair Region Conservation Map shows that that whole property is within a regulated area. And the report speaks to that permission was given by St. Clair Region for the garage, but what about the house?
So in terms of the house, I'm going to pull up an email. I did request some additional information for the enclosure of that front porch. And so the Conservation Authority had advised that they are waiting for compliance. They're waiting basically for the committee's decision prior to reviewing it fully for a permit. However, I did ask for some additional information and it has been reviewed by the Conservation Authority and they do not anticipate that they will have issues with the enclosure of the front porch deck. If you'd like, I can pull up the email.
Yeah, can we include those comments on these applications? Like when
If you wish, absolutely. I'm just gonna pull it up.
Yeah.
We received a response from the Conservation Authority. I made that request specifically because if in the event that there was a concern by the committee. So I did receive a response back in March 6th. So it just said that they checked with regulation staff and they don't foresee any issues with the porch enclosure. But that they, as they had mentioned previously, that written permission, the permit is required for the porch enclosure, which is why that condition has been listed under the recommendations. And that they don't generally issue a permit until all planning act approvals are in place.
Anything else, Jennifer?
So I guess a follow-up. So when we have planning applications come in like this, do we not pre-consult with St. Clair Region before we move forward to make sure that they're okay with it? Instead of, or do you just wait till it's circulated and then let them comment?
So through your chair, the application is circulated to all agencies. The Conservation Authority is one that is circulated for comments. So they didn't provide any additional comments on the front porch enclosure in terms of they didn't indicate that they had any additional concerns. Staff just took the extra step to ensure that there was no reason for committee to be concerned with the potential of deferring pending additional comments. If there had been an issue with the proposal, then the Conservation Authority would have submitted additional comments to explain what those concerns were and what they would need to be what next steps they would require.
Did staff use the St. Clair Region regulation maps to know if the property is within a regulated area?
So the mapping that is provided, that's on screen, that overlay that shows the top bank and the erosion allowance, that information was provided to the applicants from the Conservation Authority.
I'm talking about their website that they have that shows that the whole property is in a regulated area.
Yes, the property.
Not just the porch would be affected, but both structures that are being proposed would be affected.
Yes, and Conservation Authority has assessed the proposal based on their mapping, which is usually more accurate than what staff have on hand. Because the mapping and the conditions of the area change on a regular basis, so staff and planning don't always have that most updated information. So we rely on the Conservation Authority to provide the information as per their regulated area.
Councillor Vaizey.
The only issue I've got is the size of the garage being right on the street itself and compared to lot and everything else. It seems to be a little big, but front porch I have absolutely no issue with. You guys.
Yep. The only questions that I have are comments, seeing that the Conservation Authority don't have any issues. I don't really have any issues with the size of the shed. If you look around the area, I think there's some pretty big sheds around as well. I don't think it's going to be an issue for load allowance or any of that. So that's my comments. Comments from the committee before I read the motion.
Yeah, one more. So it does say about the applicants have obtained written permission from the Conservation Authority for the proposed garage, which is regulation number 2024-0673. Have you got that?
It will be a requirement that they will need to show that permit at the building permit stage.
Oh, they don't have it now. It says you got it.
They do have it for the garage, yes, but not for the porch.
No, I'm concerned about the garage. So they do have it. Do you have it with you? Like, I don't know what it says. Did you see it?
I may actually have a permit. I may actually have the permit. Just one moment.
If you didn't see it, like, how do you know it says it's okay?
So usually the permit is not issued until after all the planning approvals are in place. It was a bit of an anomaly that the permit was issued for the garage. However, we don't necessarily, planning does not require the permit at the time of this application process. It is a requirement at the building permit stage. However, I will look and see if I have a copy of it and I can certainly produce it.
I
committee?
can forward that to you tomorrow, Maria, or tonight.
Okay,
Do you recall what it says?
Christine has it.
I mean, do you recall what it says?
Yes, it was an approved permit.
It was approved.
Just says approved?
Yes.
Or does it have any conditions?
No, no conditions.
But now they don't care that it's in. Never mind.
Any other?
That's all the
Anything
comments,
else
I
from
guess.
the-
I don't understand this Conservation Authority. At any other time, they've got to make their comments and got to abide by them. Now, all of a sudden, it doesn't matter.
Any other comments from the committee? All right, I'm gonna read the motion. I got a motion by Les Goldhawk, seconded by Mike Vaizey, that the report by Maria Casa Rossi, senior planner dated March 4th, 2025 be received, and that minor variance application A-0325 requesting relief from the town of Plympton-Wyoming zoning bylaw for the gross floor area and height provisions for accessory buildings and structures and gross floor area for the dwelling be approved subject to the following conditions. Number one, certified lot grading plan be submitted to the town of Plympton-Wyoming and approved by the town prior to permit issuance. Number two, a final grading plan will be submitted to the town of Plympton-Wyoming upon final completion and subject to town final approval. Number 3, gas service to be moved at property owner's sole expense if it runs under the detached accessory building. Number 4, written permission from the SCRCA, St. Clair Conservation Authority, and approved by the same permit required for the porch enclosure at property owner's sole expense. Number 5, building permit required. Property owner to apply for a building permit and comply with all requirements as prescribed by the Ontario Building Code and to the satisfaction of the County of Lambton Building Services Department. Number 6, ensure eaves trough, downspouts, and grading is always maintained accordingly and within owned property boundaries, no exceptions. Number 7, ensure the property is generally maintained and drained prior to the construction process, and that drainage and waters are not diverted to neighboring properties, and that weeds and grass are always maintained within 20 centimeters, 8 inches or less. And number 8, for the detached accessory building, personal storage and use only, no habitable space, no livestock permitted, and no commercial or industrial uses permitted. I'll call the question. Oh, sorry.
Through your chair, I do have a copy of the permit and I can read the conditions out if.
So there are conditions.
Yes, there are conditions.
Okay, go ahead.
So it says St. Clair Region Conservation Authority staff have reviewed your application dated November 4th, 2024 to complete the above mentioned works. And this is specifically related to the garage. So staff have reviewed the following information as part of the review: the application for prohibited activities, exemptions, and permits, detailed design drawings prepared by Robinson Design and Drafting. So specific conditions that the SCRCA is notified at least 24 hours prior to initiation of any construction and be notified no more than 24 hours following completion of the work. That the detached garage and all construction activities at its closest location to the shoreline will be situated outside the stable slope allowance plus 60 years. As per the location on the site plan, that there are no grading changes, excavations, fill placement, site alterations, etc., between the proposed detached garage and the Lake Huron shoreline top of bank. That surface and subsurface drainage will be controlled in the subject property and directed to a well-vegetated grassed area. That excess fill will be removed and taken off site, and that disturbed areas will be stabilized upon completion and returned to original condition or better. And there are a list of general conditions as well, if you'd like me to read those out. Those are the standard conditions that, one of them is that they require them to comply with all other legislation, all other regulated bodies.
Thank you.
And I believe in our recommendations, it does have permission from the St. Clair.
Does have that. Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
When I was out there, I thought I saw a water. Comes in off the. Is that going to be underneath that water service?
Water service,
Yeah.
that'll be, you need a meter?
No, not the meter itself. I don't know. This is.
The shut off.
Shut off.
Is it going to be under that, where the garage is? Because I couldn't really tell where the garage was going.
The garage itself has not been staked, obviously, with the snow falling.
So it's not, that water's shut off is not going to interfere with anything, or can we?
Water shut off.
It's in the design. Yeah.
I can, so yeah. The water shop's usually located right at property line, so the garage shouldn't be an issue as far as.
It was hard to determine where exactly that was going to be. Okay. I have no more questions.
Okay, so I will call the question. All those in favor? That is carried.
Okay.
So there is a 20-day appeal period. After that or during that, you can talk to Mackenzie or Maria if you want any clarification on any questions or any of the recommendations. But no building or anything for 20 days. All right, thank you. All right, we're time to start our next one. We don't need to have a break, so. TED application number B-0425. Take notice an application is made by Corb Maker, sorry, Acres Incorporated with respect to the property known as Section 5, part lot 22, town of Plympton-Wyoming, 51829. Applicant is requesting permission to sever approximately 0.81 hectares, 2 acres from the lot municipally known as 5182 London Line for the purpose of creating a new lot. The retained lot is proposed to be approximately 65.52 hectares, 161.90 acres. The property previously underwent a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the retained lands from agricultural -1 A1 to no dwelling agricultural ND-A as part of the surplus farm dwelling severance process. The consent application is the next step in that process. At this time, I will refer to our planner, Maria, for her comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the application was reviewed and analyzed with respect to the provincial planning statement, county and local official plans, and the zoning bylaw, and it's found to be in conformity and compliance with those pieces of legislation and policies and regulations. So staff is recommending approval of this severance application, conditional on the list of conditions under the recommendations section. I would like to draw committee's attention to one specific condition that is going to become fairly standard in these types of applications. Because there is a farm building that is proposed to remain on the retained parcel, it will require at the building permit stage, or they will need to work with the inspector services in terms of fire resistant rating upgrades for that building, and also looking at the number of openings on that building in relation to setback from the new property line. So this is something that will come up more and more. The difficulty with these are that if they are less than 30 meters, these specific issues with the fire rating upgrades will need to be looked at. And there's a potential that if the fighting rating standards can't be met, that the building will be required to be demolished. So this is something that the applicant will need to work with building services on in order to determine next steps. Retaining that farm building on the retained parcel.
James, anything to add? Or any questions of our planner about that recommendation at all?
No, I don't think so. I don't know what would be required by building code. It's just a steel clad building. There's no insulation, there's no hydro. I don't know. I don't envision it would be difficult to be compliant.
Is there any correspondence on this application?
Through your chair, we received no correspondence on the application.
I'll refer to our committee. This time I'll start with my far right, Councillor Vasey.
Issues.
Jennifer.
I have no issues.
Deputy Mayor McEwen.
Well, I don't want to disappoint you, you see.
I know, yeah.
There's a water service that goes along London Line, so it's municipal water service. That house is connected to it, is it? It's not? Okay, but anyway, you would have paid frontage at one time or another for it, would you?
Probably when the lot's put in.
So we're creating a new lot, but I don't see one of the conditions in this that they have to pay for the frontage of, like, you probably, you're not gonna live forever, you know, and I don't want to, I don't want you to, I think that I'm giving you a sad story, but the next owner may want to put up a building, a barn that's going to house animals. They'll need water. So they really, when you're creating a new lot, at least for 40 years now, when you create a new lot and it's on municipal services, they have to pay the frontage for that municipal service. And I don't see that as a condition in this particular consent, and I wonder if it should be added.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to refer to Josh to address that concern.
Yeah, so through the chair, so the retained parcel isn't currently hooked up to water.
No.
So if they wanted to hook up to water in the future, that's when they would have to pay the frontage fees, because it would go through a service installation application to install that water service.
Yes. I agree, they have to go through a service installation cert, but when a new lot is created and they're on a municipal service, that service the frontage needs to be paid for that service. I don't think that's changed in,
They don't currently have a service to the property line, though. The lot with the house on it has the service to the property line, but the farmland doesn't have that service yet.
would you just make sure that in this condition, one of those conditions is that the frontage fees be paid when that farm property needs a water service, because I'm not gonna sit here and argue about it.
It through your chair, it is a standard condition when we are doing residential severances. But if you would like us to, if committee would like to add an additional condition there, then certainly that can be added. See,
It's too easily lost in the future. Sorry, with changing employees and everything like that, it's just. Sorry, and I know you'll be honest enough to pay, there's no doubt about that, but it's lost.
so through your chair, does committee then, if that is what committee wishes, did you want something to the effect that the associated water frontage fees be paid in full and the services installed for the newly created lot prior to the stamping of the deeds, or do you want something a little bit more general?
I think it would be that basically, when, I don't even know if anyone's gonna look back and see that if basically when water is hooked up, then frontage fees will have to be.
Well, that's it. That's what I don't want to lose.
Well, I don't know if anyone's truly gonna look back at this. Corinne, what would you guys do over there?
If I'm wrong, Josh, but when people request a water service, it would have to be a hot tap service. So they're gonna have to talk to the municipality already about hot tapping into that water line to get a curb stop. So they will have to pay frontage fees at that time.
Yes, through that service installation application, that's when it's initiated. We have to look, have they paid frontage fees? And that's when we
Right.
get caught.
I agree, but I'm just concerned that never. Without saying, well, yeah, okay, I'll say it. I'm just concerned that, how do they look back to see that this has actually been paid?
So through your chair, I just want to be clear that if we place a condition as part of the approval, it has to be a condition that the applicants can meet. So the only condition that the applicants can meet is that they pay, that they install the water.
No, I don't want that.
Right, so there, if we were to place that condition, I don't think it's something that the applicants can reasonably meet at this time, unless there's a stipulation that it has to be done prior to the stamping of the deeds. That's my only concern.
I don't understand how it could be missed if they're going to do a new hookup.
Yeah.
Then they go and talk to building services and they know they have to pay frontage fees. I don't, because I can tell you, I don't think anyone's gonna look back at the severance application or committee of adjustments recommendations to say that they're
No,
gonna.
that's what I'm.
Right, so if it's common practice from building services to, when they newly hook up a water to get those fees, am I correct, Corinne? That's.
Joint thing between ourselves and the town. When they make the application to Josh's department to get that hot tap, then that's when it would trigger and they look it up to see who has paid their frontage. So say if I had never paid a frontage and I've always lived in my house on his lot, I went to come in and get a water service, it would determine if ourselves or a previous owner had paid the frontage or whether it's due.
Right,
Right.
but we know that yours is paid. Because that you paid it, or whoever lived there at the time paid it then, when it went,
But they can look it up to see who paid and who hasn't,
Okay,
right?
fine.
Had Simonton's never paid for it and I'm coming for a water line today, it would be picked up.
right.
So I'd have that.
But if you sever things off,
I agree with Nettie. I know exactly what she's talking about. And typically there's a bylaw that's in place that the municipality would have so that when newly lots are created, the frontage is paid. You don't have to hook up to water. Mr. Cordmaker's not hooked up to water, but he's already paid for the frontage because the service went in. So when you create a new lot, you pay for the frontages so that when you go to connect, you've already paid for that fee to have the approval to connect. So I think it should be in there. Mr. Cordmaker's already paid it and he's not hooked to water, but whoever owns the newly created property, every property along there that sits there today would have paid frontage when the bylaw went in. So maybe we should be reading the bylaw to find out what the stipulation is in there for when those frontages have to be paid. I'm sure it would say when a newly lot's created. Doesn't mean that the water service has to be put in. It's just that the frontages are paid, and the frontages that a customer pays is the right to connect. That is all.
So what are we gonna do?
From our committee, I don't know the bylaw, so
Do
Josh,
you,
anything?
I don't have the bylaw, but is it something, it's not gonna help us for this application, but we've approved other ones in the last little bit without it. Would there be merit to us talking to Adam and bringing back a report to Committee of Adjustment to determine how we should be addressing these frontages and how we want to, where we can kind of say, this is the line in the sand and this is the day we started doing this?
And through your chair, staff did review other previous applications, similar applications, and there were no notations in terms of frontage fees for the retained parcel
okay,
or agricultural parcels. Now, if it was a residential lot and there was a severance, then yes, it's a standard condition, but for agricultural lots,
okay, but
staff was unable to find that.
that's what we've been doing all along with new residential lots, okay? So
Some of the other developments that we've been doing where there's been 10 or 12 or
Then-
15 lots, we've been asking for that up front. And then there was also, I know where you're coming from. I think
it needs to
the
be,
issue here is because severances are so new to us.
yes, that's the problem.
So can
And I
we
think we just need to hydro with
that back?
and
take that back? Or do we, can we?
Well, I don't want to hold this up. It's a trouble.
So are we good with the conditions that are here presently? And
Read that one about the severance fees. One condition on severance fees.
Severance fees as required by.
Additional severance fees as required by the town have been paid before the documents will be endorsed.
We had severance fees and water service fees.
As applicable, is that what you want?
Yes, please.
So additional severance fees,
Frontage fees.
water frontage fees as applicable.
Yes. Sorry to be a pain in the neck.
Well, I have as required, but I'll just
yeah, I got
say
it.
additional severance fees and water frontage fees as required by the town have been paid before the documents will be endorsed.
Mr. Corbin Maker wants to say something.
Yes. Sorry.
Ask a question. So the last meeting we had here was to rezone the remaining parcel of land, so we could not build a house on that property. The frontage and the connection at the road, there is a curb stop there at the road, has been paid by the landowner already. So that curb stop could service the house. Should the new owner decide to connect. I suppose, since we can't build another residence on that property, there would be no need for an additional curb stop on the farm property.
No, but I did mention when I started saying it, that if somebody, the next owner, you probably don't want to build a chicken barn or pig barn or anything else. Like, it's gonna, have animals there, you'll need one.
So I have my mover and seconder is Mike and Les. On number 9, I have changed it to additional severance fees on my water frontage fees as applicable by the town have been paid before the documents will be endorsed. Is that okay with the mover and seconder? Mike? Okay, any other questions before I call the motion? Oh, got a question?
And then return yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't even been through. I'm sorry, Les, my apologies. She took so much time here to my left that
I knew I'd get left behind.
I apologize.
Blaming me.
Les, go right ahead.
The only thing I had was, I believe I heard you say that there was no power currently to that shed that's on the property that's going to stay agricultural.
On the farm property, yes.
And the power line that it sits on the lot that's going to be the residential one.
Transformer on the severed lot, yeah.
Okay. That was all.
Okay, I guess I didn't include anybody else from the committee to ask questions, so thanks, Jennifer, for pointing that out to me. Councillor Basie, any questions on this application?
Thank you.
My apologies for, and he just threw me off here.
Usually do, don't it?
There's a buffer. Oh, sorry. All right. Jennifer,
I got mine answered, thank you.
anyone else from the committee? Okay, I got a motion by Mike Vasey, seconded by Les Goldhawk, that the report by Maria Casa Rossi dated March 3rd, 2025 be received. And that consent application B-0425 requesting permission to sever the lot municipally known as 5182 London Line be approved, subject to the following conditions. Number one, a new septic system be required to be installed on the severed parcel at the owner's expense. Number two, a change of use permit is required for the agricultural storage shed, onset hut or carport on the severed property to a residential storage building. Number three, fire resistance rating upgrades will be required for the shed on the retained parcel, and a building permit will be required. Number four, all Drainage Act assessments applicable to the lands be reapportioned according to the agreement provided by the town and signed by the respective property owners of each of the affected lands. If the parties cannot mutually agree to the apportionment, or if the town does not approve, the town shall instruct an engineer in writing to apportion the assessment among the parts into which the land was divided, and the applicant shall pay the engineering fees for such apportionment. The fees will be paid prior to the stamping of the deeds. And number five, entrance permit required for any alterations to the existing entrance for the proposed severed residential lot to the satisfaction of the County of Lambton Public Works Department. Number six, that the owner satisfy the Plympton-Wyoming Public Works Department with respect to individual access being located on both the retained and severed parcel and installed in compliance with the streets bylaw. A, the access to the retained lands is required to be located along the local collector roadway, i.e. South Plympton Road, to the satisfaction of the Plympton-Wyoming Public Works Department and in compliance with the streets bylaw. Number seven, a copy of the final RD plan or survey be submitted to the town of Plympton-Wyoming. Number eight, a copy of the deed and survey must be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer in a form suitable for registration. Number nine, additional severance fees, water frontage fees as applicable, be paid to the town, be paid prior to the documents will be before the documents will be endorsed. Number 10, the conditions must be met and the survey and deed be presented within 2 years from the date of the decision. Consent will lapse. I'll call the question. In favor? And that motion is carried. As you've heard earlier, there's a 20-day appeal period. You can speak with Maria or Mackenzie if you have any questions about any of the recommendations or any of that. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, committee, we have we'll move on to our business. So we have old business. Once again, our old business is comprehensive zoning bylaw amendment. Anything to add? Have we had any more meetings about that? Maria?
There will be, the consultant MPG will be coming to council at the end of the month, to make a presentation. But the specific regulations have not been redrafted. The presentation will be just very general, indicating the areas that will be redrafted and changed just in general terms, but the specific regulations haven't been drafted yet. There will be an additional request to be sent in to MPG. We will be meeting internally to discuss number of driveways for residential lots. Just because there is a bit of, between the streets bylaw and the zoning, there isn't enough clarity in terms of the intent, whether it is to actually allow for 2 driveways for residential properties, or if it's to be 1, or if it's to be discretionary. So we'll be looking at that internally and then sending an additional note to MPG about that as well.
Okay, if the committee wants to listen in on the technical paper discussion, the meeting is Plympton-Wyoming Council on the 24th at 5 p.m. So Monday night at 5 p.m. is when it's, you can listen online, or you can come join us. There'll be about a 15-20 minute presentation, then an opportunity for questions.
And if they don't want to watch it live, they can watch it on the YouTube channel,
Correct.
on the town's YouTube channel.
Correct.
Thanks, Corinne. Any other old business? We got some new business. Mackenzie, you want to talk about the conference?
So some of you have already indicated you saw the email, but just a couple hours ago, I forwarded an email that the OACA conference and general meeting in Blue Mountain taking place the second week of May. Registration has opened up for that. If you want to attend, just let me know. Let me know now, or you can reply to the email. I know a couple of you have already indicated that you have registered or intend to register, but yeah, just let me know.
So just for the committee, I know that Jennifer has mentioned that she's going to go. I am going to go this year as well, and I believe Deputy Mayor McEwen has decided to go, and it's open for you two as well. So once again, Mackenzie, you'll do all of the application and all that stuff for us. Do we just need to tell you what stuff that we want to go to? Or is it just, we choose that when we get there?
As far as I know, you just need to register in general for the conference, and then you can sign up.
Yeah, the one I went to, I think we had to book some of the workshops prior to, but that was a long time ago, so I don't really know what the process is now. But I wasn't able to open it up.
I can reach back out when I start registering. I haven't done it before, so I'll be working with Aaron, but if anything like that comes up, I'll reach back out and get in contact.
And do you book the rooms as well, or do you need us to book the rooms?
Sweet.
I believe the town will book the room.
I'd like one bigger than Deputy Mayor McEwen's, please. That would be.
You can put me in closet, I don't care.
Nobody puts baby in the closet.
That's a corner.
Still.
Any questions on Mackenzie about the conference? Thank you, Mackenzie. Yeah, we'll work with you with that applications for sure. I believe Erin has done it as well and whatnot. I know she did it when I went a long time ago. So any other new business, Mackenzie?
Nothing for me.
Josh, any new business on you type of engineering? Corinne? Maria?
Yes, I have one item. Possibly 2, but 1 for sure. So planning staff is going to be having some discussions internally about developing an application specifically for surplus farm dwelling severances. The applications, I think it requires a separate application because there's some additional information that the standard consents in residential areas doesn't require. So we will have that internal discussion because we will need an updated application to reflect, the list of farm parcels. The septic information and form is already there, but we're going to keep that there as well. The MDS information. Now the spatial separation, we do have a checklist of a form that has been created by building services that we can now attach to the application to address, is there a minimum 30-meter setback? The number of openings for the farm buildings. So we will also require some additional information on the drawings, including hydro lines, water and sewer services as applicable within the individual property limits. Also looking at the accesses for both the proposed severed and proposed main lot. location and setbacks for water wells. The previous application that we heard this evening, we did provide that information, but not all applicants provide that. So just standardizing it a little bit based on the various criteria that's required in the to be addressed via the policies, but also some additional information that we found as we're working with these applications that has been missing or that would be helpful for committee as well. And then just we'll look at the servicing issue that's been raised this evening in terms of frontage fees as well. For that, so that's the new item that we thought that this might be more helpful to deal specifically with these applications as we're getting more and more of them in, and it seems like we just want to close the gap in terms of the information that is required and that has been missing. Hopefully that will be helpful, but we'll keep you posted on that. We will be, as long as there's, we're hoping that there will be agreement on this. And so if there is, we will be working fairly quickly on this. Mackenzie and I have already discussed this. So I know Mackenzie's done a really good job with helping us to amend some of the other applications, planning applications this year as well. So we'll talk about the other ones in more detail when we have that.
Will this be a county or county application like for all municipalities in the county, or will it be just for Plympton-Wyoming?
At this time, I can speak to the proposal that would be put forth to Plympton-Wyoming. There may be some uptake in other municipalities to look at that as well, but for today, I can only speak to the intent.
Will that have to be passed by council, or will that have to be passed here, or does it need to be passed at all? So it's just
And the application will also be circulated to Public Works. So we're going to include some other departments and building services just to ensure that any other issues that they need captured as part of the application, that those are addressed as well. Normally planning prepares the applications so that they're compliant with the the various legislation. And usually it just requires minimal information. We're just looking to increase the amount of available information so that when we're looking at the application, it's more holistic, and that if there's any additional conditions that need to be covered, that those are covered based on the information that's presented. But we have to have the onus be on the property owner to provide that information to us. So we're just looking to make some amendments.
any questions?
There's one, and I may have missed it as you were going through them. So utilities section, like power lines, the gas, the water will all be taken care of in that application, that it would be on the residential parcel supplying.
We will be looking to have the property owner provide that information. Yes.
Just looking back on the one from I think it was Hislop line.
That's also why the hydro lines was identified specifically. So just to.
Yeah, and having that application will be better because then we won't have to defer while we're waiting for that information. That information should come all in a package and kind of.
And the question is asked on the application currently about easements. And so, but sometimes we have to go with the information that's provided by the applicant. They're declaring that the information they provided is accurate and true. So because we don't have access to that information with staff. So we're hoping to, likely with the application, Mackenzie and I will chat about that too, is we'll provide a sample of what the drawing should look like, just to be more helpful, because sometimes it's overwhelming to provide like the written instructions for the property owners to really be able to understand fully what they need to provide. So if we provide them with a visual aid, I find is helpful for a lot of people. So it's a work in progress, but we need to speak internally about that. But I think based on everything we've been seeing so far, it might be more helpful to have a separate application for this process.
They would have been fine on Hislop if they had have squared the lot rather than create that lollipop.
And sometimes the creation of the lollipop, it's not our favorite, but it's just to ensure that there is the minimal amount of land taken up that doesn't negatively impact the rest of the agricultural parcel, but yes, it's not our preference either.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Maria? Any other new business? Councillor Vaizey,
I have nothing.
Jennifer?
Just to add to Maria's comment that they don't get the necessarily information up front from utility companies from the applicant. If staff adds all the outside agencies to their circulation list, then they puts the onus on the utility companies to comment. They will have the information on what utilities they're on. So Enbridge has a planning email address. Hydro One has a planning email address. Your garbage disposal, Canada Post. Who am I missing? Rogers. Internal staff should be circulated anyways. Rogers, Cogeco, they all have planning email addresses to add to your circulation list.
Most of them are already on the circulation. We'd need to review if like Rogers and the BRA, like the Blue Water Recycling Association,
Marcotte for here.
if they're included on that, but most of the other ones are like Enbridge, Hydro, and they're all included already, but we can certainly review them.
Hydro One just got included, so
Anything else, Jennifer?
well, that's it.
Deputy Mayor McHugh.
No, nothing.
That's easy. Okay. I have a motion by Nettie McEwen, seconded by Mike Vaizey, that the Committee of Adjustments meeting be adjourned and that the next meeting be scheduled for April the 8th, 2025 at 5:15 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried.